Hello everyone, I am Big Nono, patriarch of the Nono family, and I'm here to talk to you about Bloodskip is the new exciting discovery in Yakuza speedrunning, specifically Yakuza Kiwami speedrunning. I actually discovered this just a few days ago, and it's a really cool little skip. So if you've played either the original Yakuza or Yakuza Kiwami, which is its remake, you'll know that in Chapter 10 of the game, Shinji and Reina, your friends, are on the run from the Nishikiyama family, and the idea is that they leave this literal trail of blood that you have to use to track them down. Now, unlike what you would expect from a blood trail, for some reason, Shinji and Reina aren't bleeding continuously, but every few blocks there's like this huge splurge of blood, and you find one, you walk around a bit, you find the next one, and that's how you eventually track Shinji and Reina down to what's going to be in future games, the Dragon Palace Gambling Hall. And you have a set piece there, you fight Arce. It's a bad time if you don't know how to deal with enemies with guns, or if you're playing OG1, it's just a bad time anyway, because that game is always a bad time. The thing is, in the original Yakuza, this is the way that you're intended as a player to find out where to go. But the thing is, you don't really have to interact with this blood trail at all. If you're, someone who played the game already, and especially if you're a speedrunner, you can just go to where the Dragon Palace is, directly go there, go in, and initiate the set piece, and no issue with that. Now, in K1, you can't actually do this. If I try to just go the shortest path to the Dragon Palace, you'll notice it doesn't work. I'm going to get to this intersection, where you get the phone call from Shinji if you follow the blood trail correctly, and you'll notice that I'm not getting the phone call, and if I try to go to the actual Dragon Palace itself, then I can't actually interact with it. Like, there's no way of getting in. Now, you can kind of imagine what they were thinking about when they were making K1 and they were making sure that you had to follow the blood trail to go to Dragon Palace, because it's kind of a staple of video game remakes that they like to mess with player expectations. I think the classic example of this is still RE1 Remake, which has a lot of ways of messing with your expectations as a player of the original Resident Evil, not the least of which is a lot of different zombie positions, and also the fact that zombies at some point just start bursting out of doors and stuff like that. Spoiler, sorry if you still haven't played Resident Evil Remake. In fact, there's also a moment like this in Kiwami itself. So in the original Yakuza, you have what I call the dog defense fight, where these guys from the White Gang abuse this dog. Kiryu, of course, helps him out, and the dog, you need to pick him up a bit, so Haruka has the idea of telling Kiryu to get the dog some dog food. Now, if you're a player of the original, then you already know this, so you probably went and got dog food before the fact. However, if you just try to bring dog food into this fight, then the game tells you, okay, you got the dog food, but guess what? Dogs can't eat without water, which, by the way, is true. So that's a point for Kiwami for realism in taking care of dogs, and any dog owner will tell you the same. So don't even argue with me about this. But yeah, if you try to just give him the dog food, then the game will say, oh, you fucking dumbass, you actually need to go and get yourself some water as well. And then when you go get the water, the game's like, well, how do you expect him to drink it? Out of the friggin' bottle? So you have to go and get a plate as well, which is pretty funny. To be honest, it wasn't that funny when it happened to me the first time, but I can appreciate it in retrospect. Now, you can pretty much view this part of Kiwami the same way. They know that veteran players will try to just go directly to Dragon Palace, and they know that they'll get there, and they know that they will be very confused and start looking around for what they need to do. So it's a way of messing with your expectations. Now, what if you're not someone who played the original? What if you're one of the many people who were introduced to Yakuza with Yakuza 0, like myself, for example, and this is your first time playing the game? Well, you step out of Serena, and you probably walk into this blood splurt, and Kiryu says, that's a lot of blood. Is this Shinji's? Which, I mean, yeah, it is a lot of blood, and as you can see, these blood splurts that I was talking about that are pretty ridiculous are now decorating the streets, and you just start following them. You have no better lead than this, so that's just what you do. Now, something interesting to notice. You wouldn't do this as a casual player, But if you, for some reason, just decide to completely go off the blood splurge path and just come back up here, then you'll notice there's no blood anywhere in sight on this street. Now keep that in mind, because that's going to be important in a moment. But let's go back to where we were before. Now again, as a casual player, you would probably just keep following these blood splurts. I don't even know if splurt is a word. It probably isn't, but you know what I mean. It's a splurge, it's a stain, it's a lot of blood. It's what it is. But yeah, you just keep running from bloodstain to bloodstain, and you come down here, and you see that the blood continues up the street. You've got these NPCs here. If you talk to them, they say something about Lieutenant Tanaka, which is Shinji. And this is how you know to continue to the hotel district. And now that we went through here, you can see that this time we actually do see these blood stains. And now when we come up here, boom, phone call from Shinji. And after this phone call, we can see the objective marker on the map, and we can go to Dragon Pass and actually enter and initiate the cutscene. So what do we have here? We went through Serena, went up Tenkaichi Street, went east on Taihei, and up through Senryo, and then back through Shichifuku, all the way up here to get the phone call. And this is just the result of following the Bloodstained path. So that, we could say, is the dev-intended way of doing things. That's how they intended for you, as a new player, as someone who was not familiar with the original game, to figure out where to go. Now, this is already a lot of preamble, so allow me to just cut to the chase here and show you what you can do instead. And I will explain more about this later, but let's just first of all get the discovery itself out of the way. So initially, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to follow the blood path as before, all the way east on Taihei, and here's where I'm going to first diverge. So I'm not going to go down here, I'm not going to keep going east on Taihei. Instead, I'm going to approach this bloodstain. And you can see Kiryu saying, there's slightly less blood here, no doubt about it, he was heading into the Champion District. And that's important. So what the game expects you to do now is obviously head to the Champion District, and obviously it's a bit shorter to do it through here. But what if you're a huge smartass like me, and you decide to say, haha, but there's actually another way to get into the Champion District. A dumber way, but it's a way of doing it, and that's from the north. Just go up to Shichifuku and then go east. And from here, we can see Champion District already. Now notice what happens when I walk back. So just to remind you, if I just would have gone straight from Serena to this intersection, nothing would have happened. We would have come up here and there would be no phone call. But now that I looked at the bloodstain and actually had the Champion District in my sights, boom, phone call. But there's actually even more going on here. In fact, you don't have to see Champion District. You can just go about all the way here and then go back. And as you can see, the moment I hit the intersection, boom, phone call. So what does the route look like now? Well, we go through Tenkaichi Alley, go up Nakamichi, into where the bloodstain is. This is slightly faster than following the initial bloodstain path, because going through Nakamichi is about, I think it's like 1 second faster. After we do that, we go up the street next to Millennium Tower, then go east on Shichifuku just far enough to around here on the map, and then we turn back and get to this intersection. And this ends up being between 7 to 8 seconds faster than going through the bloodstain path, which I realize may not sound like much for a run that's almost 2 hours long. Here's the thing, before discovering Bloodskip, my take was that Yakuza Kiwami has about 10 to 20 seconds of time saved left in it. The current world record by me is 1:41:39, and I don't think you're going to see much better than a 141 1x. At this point with this skip, I'm actually willing to say there may be a potential for a 140xx, like we might have one more minute mark to shave off in any percent. So that's actually pretty big in my mind. And besides, for so long we had this idea that in K1 you have to follow the blood path, that I'm just really happy that I found a skip like this, just because, you know, it's another level of messing with the game's mechanics. Now, how does blood skip work? Not having access to game code, I can't really tell you for sure what their intentions were, but we can try and at least deduce their intentions from the way this works. So, obviously, if a player doesn't know anything about the game, you want them to just have a simple visual cue they can follow, and this is the blood path, you know, just having bloodstains, and the game generates more bloodstains down the path as you cross certain checkpoints on the path. Now, for most of the bloodstains in the game, if you walk up to them, it either says nothing, or you get a text like, "The pools of blood are getting more frequent, he must be bleeding pretty bad. Still more blood, whatever his wounds are, there's no way he should be moving this fast to get away." So most bloodstains don't give you any information about where Shinji and Reina actually are. The only one that does, at least as far as I've found, is this one that tells you that they're headed to the Champion District. And I believe at this point they thought, well, once they see this text about the Champion District, they could get there through all sorts of ways. So we shouldn't assume that they actually go down the path, because what if they go up here and go to the Champion District and nothing happens and they get confused? And this is why actually going or actually seeing the Champion District works. So why does it work to walk up to this yellow sign where we still can't actually see the Champion District? So the way the map works in Yakuza Kiwami and also in Zero, and I believe that in other games, but this is what I can say more or less for sure, is it's divided into loading zones. It doesn't actually load everything into the map all at once. It kind of loads a zone along with, I don't know, some nearby zones. I don't have the exact information. And you can see this fact sometimes in how fight spawns react, because sometimes you'll be coming out of the batting center and there will be a fight spawn somewhere in here, and you'll run past it, and the fight spawn will weirdly just get the aggro. Like, it'll show up as yellow or red in your minimap, and then when you cross some point here, it'll just disappear from the minimap. And the reason for that is that something happens to fighting spawns when you switch load zones. I'm not really sure why, but this is just a fact about how the game works. Now, what I'm assuming happens next to the yellow sign here isn't that they're actually checking, okay, you had the Champion District in your sights, or you went into the Champion District. I think what they're testing is whether you were in the same loading zone as the Champion District. Which, again, one would have to check this, but I'm willing to bet that if you were to check where the boundary of the Champion District loading zone passes, it's somewhere around here. And this is why, if you go to the bloodstain here, the game says, okay, the player knows that Shinji and Reina are headed to the Champion District. And once you go here and cross the loading zone, the game says, okay, the player was, for all intents and purposes, in the Champion District. We can finally unlock the trigger for the phone call from Shinji. Again, these are all just theories, but this all makes sense to me. So now we have this nice little skip. It saves us 7-8 seconds. It's cool, it's nice. Could it be better than this? So, like I already said, if you just go here, if you just take the shortest path from Serena to where you get the call from Shinji, or even to Dragon Palace itself, it doesn't work. You might think, well, maybe this hint from the bloodstain isn't really important and you can just go directly here. Maybe even go down to the Tenkaichi Street entrance, take the taxi all the way up here to Purgatory, then run down to where the loading zone is, to where the yellow sign is, and then go to get the phone call from Shinji. This also doesn't work. So, other than being in the same loading zone as Champion District, you need another trigger. Now, the only way I can see of improving blood skip, and I wouldn't be too surprised if they're worse something like this in the game is if there's some other trigger that I missed that I haven't been able to find in my testing that is faster to get, that is closer to a taxi or something like that, that gives you the same effect. That maybe even lets you skip the champion district itself. Like, maybe there's a bloodstain that says, oh, it looks like they're, I don't know, going up to the hotel district, and you can immediately just head there and not have an issue. Maybe there's one of the NPCs tells you, oh, you should probably head to Dragon Palace. Like, not this guy, obviously, but theoretically, that could happen. And if someone finds something like that, maybe we can save even more time, which would be really, really nice. Right now, from all of my testing, this is the only method I've found that works. But just because I haven't found anything doesn't mean it's not out there. And I would really encourage anyone who's curious about this, if you want to do some testing and if you dig up anything interesting, let me know, because I would really, really love to be able to save even more time on this. And I guess this is the first time I do a video like this expounding on new tech or new skips or anything like that. If this is something you find interesting, let me know, because I'd definitely be interested in making more of these, and it doesn't have to be new things. I can go back and explain older tech if that's interesting to anyone. But yeah, I'm actually currently grinding Yakuza Kiwami. That's how I found Blood Skip, and I've actually been trying to find a Blood Skip for a very, very long time. And this is the first time I've actually come up with anything, so I'm very happy about that. But yeah, if you like the video, do the usual like, subscribe, comment bullshit. I'm very bad at this, as you can tell. More importantly, if you like Yakuza speedruns, then follow me on Twitch at Big Nono. I'm also doing a very cool birthday celebration / Yakuza speedrun marathon next week, so I'd love if you could tune in for that, or for any of the Yakuza Kiwami speedruns I'll be doing in the meantime. And that's it pretty much. Thank you for watching, and let's all appreciate and celebrate Bloodskip. Have a good one, folks.